within the Energy Data Studio, I'm going to scroll over natural gas, go down to supply and demand, and select the macro, which is kind of the culmination of our more basin-specific supply and demand forecasts. This represents lower 48 natural gas market story. Upon first logging in here, I have some very basic graphics up front. I scroll down to the actual report. I have some options to choose from. So I have our actual supply and demand forecast report, which is in PowerPoint form. I have an unbalanced data set. I have a specific data set for LNG and then a balanced data set. Today, we're going to go over the report and the balanced data set and the LNG export forecast data set. So without any further ado, let's get in there. Click on download file. PDF is going to pop up here. We'll expand this and go through the content. You can see I'm looking at the September edition of the report. This report is issued either the day before or the day of the start of bid week at the end of each month. So expect it somewhere between typically the 23rd to the 25th of each month. Here I have a table of contents with easy to access navigation. We start out with the key takeaways, the observations from the month and its impact on our forecast. And then we talk about what we actually changed in the forecast before moving on to our four main categories. So that would be supply, demand, storage, and of course, price. I'll take you through each one of these very carefully. Key takeaways, basically around supply, demand, storage, and price. That followed by the conversation around how our forecast has changed. We do an unbalanced forecast and a balanced forecast. And when we're looking at some of the storage side of things, for example, we look at rig count. Here you can see in this particular month how our rig count has evolved to essentially drop down to this blue box here, which changes our production forecast. And this was necessary, in effect, to balance the market for this particular month. When we look at production specifically, you get a production evolution chart through 2024. This is kind of where we see production going and the various interactions amongst the major basins that we see. We move on to demand. We take a look at specifically at power burn. Power burn demand has been fairly vibrant this summer, and we expect it to continue to be as we go forward into the winter and into next summer. So a little in-depth analysis there. Talk about LNG specifically. I will build on this when we get to the data set in just 1 second. And then finally, we get into our discussion around storage and price. What storage hinges on quite a bit is the deficit or surplus to the 5-year average. We detail that out in this graph and look for trends in order to do our forecast going forward. So whether the surplus is shrinking or if it is growing, we'll denote that here along with the price from Henry Hub spot price in order to get a sense of what's really driving the market. We also look at seasons. So when we look at summer versus summer, we see, in this particular instance, we see a pretty balanced market. When we get out to winter versus winter, we see a production slowdown here in particular, and still some pretty rampant demand. So we draw conclusions around what that means and how that basically looks season over season to ultimately get at a price forecast. And here what we're looking at is where is our preliminary storage observations going to land, whether winter, whether end of winter season or end of summer season. And there's a corresponding price down below as it relates to the deficit or surplus to the 5-year average. We also denote that we are forecasting Henry Hub spot prices. We are not forecasting the forward curve. But where we see instances and where you'll derive value from this report is, in some instances, our forecast may be less it'll be lower than say the spot price or the forward curve. So if you need to say, for example, buy gas a month ahead, and you look at the curve and you say, boy, that's really expensive. Well, it may be that the curve is just being speculative, and maybe you should look at the Henry Hub cash price for your gas needs. There also will be instances where our price forecast is a little bit more aggressive than the forward curve, and so that may be a time where you actually want to go out on the market and speculate. In any case, it's all laid out here. We try to cover at least 2 seasons forward in terms of where our price assumptions are, and you can see the comparison between the East Daily forecast of Henry Hub Spot and the NYMEX, both summer and winter strips, and then calendar years as well. Here's our information if you need to contact us. Of course, that's always available. So we're, between myself and Alex Scafford, we're a phone call or email away, and as is our general insight line here. So that was the actual report. You can see it's fairly compact, and what it does is it takes data from the data set and encapsulate it in PowerPoint form. Let's go into that data set right here. Click on download file. And you'll see this tidy little spreadsheet pops up. All the numbers in this black font right here are actuals. And then these numbers here in the blue are forecast. So you can see we're in October 2023 here. There are also collapsible and expandable items here. So take a look at this, and you can get all of our basin level forecasts going forward that sum up to our total production forecast. So we're doing it at that level and building it out at that level. Similarly, you can do the same thing with some of the imports here, Canada and LNG. You can break out, and production plus net imports equals total supply. Over on the demand side of things, you can break this out, and you'll see we do forecast residential, commercial, industrial, power, and smaller items like pipeline use and vehicle fuel, all summed up here under total consumption. Export market, of course, with LNG becoming even more important in the market these days, we break out Mexico, Canada, and LNG to give you a total exports numbers here. This then is added with consumption to surmise total demand. And then, of course, supply minus demand equals storage. So this is how we derive our storage balance here in this column here. Graphical representation here between our storage balance and the 5-year average. And then, of course, over here, we include a new inclusion of our Henry Hub spot forecast here, the actuals recorded, sourced from EIA, and then our forecast right here, similar to what was shown in the in the actual report, but a little bit cleaner here as well. The next data set available in this package is the LNG export forecast data set. I'll go through this briefly before summing up. Here, what you're seeing is a couple different things. So East Daily tracks not only FIDs, but also what are called sales purchase agreements, or SPAs. The current tab here that we're on is the SPA tracker. And so what this tries to do is it looks ahead and it looks at all the deals that these liquefaction companies are essentially making in real time. SPAs are a good indicator that a project will go to FID, or final investment decision. So we have our SPA tracker here, and we have our SPA chart, which basically shows SPAs by company origin here. You can see how full or how contracted each one of these facilities are, updated on a monthly basis. And what that leads us over to here is current and potential capacity. So if we look at those with what we consider expected FID and those that have actually reached FID, those are delineated here. We can derive a forecast. over here to the right, this is listed out as what we assume, both feed gas capacity and then our export forecast, assuming roughly 90% utilization of the facility. Scroll up here so you can kind of see it both ways. You can see that we have these convenient stacks here for you guys to look at. First big ramp will be happening in the end of 2024, 2025. I like to call it phase 2, with the next phase coming in a little later at like 26, 27 here. So you can use this stack if you're analyzing, for example, what percentage of U.S. demand will be exports in the future, and that all appears to be rising. So again, SPAs and then FID monitoring lead us to this actual forecast graph right here. So that is what is available with the macro S&D product offering. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the product and how we like to present it, both in PowerPoint and XLS styles. Thanks for your time and appreciate you stopping by.